Let me ask you a question. Have you ever laid awake at night exhausted and your brain just refuses to calm down? It's going through every awkward thing you've said this week, every bill you forgot to check, every task you did or didn't do. And you're lying there thinking, why am I like this? Let me just say, this is so common. In fact, over 50% of the general adult population report overthinking and the inability to calm racing thoughts. Here's what I find so fascinating about that, though. Your brain isn't doing that to torture you. It actually thinks it's helping. And once you understand why it does that, everything will make sense for you. So that's what we're getting into today. The science behind why your brain won't stop and what you can actually do about it. Part 1. What is anxiety really? First, a reframe that I think is really important. Anxiety is not a flaw, it's a feature. Evolutionarily speaking, anxiety is what kept our ancestors alive. It allowed them to escape danger. That threat detection system, your brain's alarm, is called the amygdala. It's an almond-shaped cluster deep in your brain, and its entire job is to scan for danger 24/7, no days off. When it detects a threat, real or imagined, it triggers what you know as the fight or flight response. Adrenaline floods your system, your heart rate spikes, digestion pauses, blood rushes to your muscles. Your body is ready. But the problem with that is that your amygdala can't always tell the difference between a lion, for example, and a strong-worded text message, or a presentation at work, a difficult conversation, uncertainty about the future. To your brain, it's the same signal. Danger. React now. Part 2. The loop your brain gets stuck in. So here's where anxiety gets really interesting and really frustrating. When your amygdala fires, it sends signals to your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain. Now, normally your prefrontal cortex is like the sensible friend who goes, hey, calm down, it's just a work email, it's not a lion. But under high stress, that connection gets disrupted. The brain basically takes the wheel, rational thinking goes offline, and that's when the loop starts. You have a word thought. That thought creates a physical sensation, a tight chest, shallow breathing, racing heart. Your brain notices those sensations and it goes, see, something is wrong, which creates more worried thoughts, which create more sensations, which go in a loop. And psychologists call this the anxiety spiral. And it's one of the most exhausting experiences a human being can have. Because the harder you try to stop thinking about something anxious, the more your brain fixates on it. Have you ever tried not to think about a pink elephant? Well, your brain is not great at negatives. There's actually a name for this. It's called the ironic process theory, coined by psychologist Daniel Wegner. When you try to suppress a thought, a little part of your brain has to keep monitoring for that thought to make sure you're not thinking about it, which means you're always kind of thinking about it. Really strange. Part 3. Why modern life is anxiety fuel. So we've got an ancient alarm system that evolved for physical threats, and we've dropped it into the most informationally overwhelming environment in human history. Here's what I mean. For most of human history, your threat pool was relatively small. The weather, local predators, your tribe, things you could see, touch and smell. But now, your brain, your mind is processing global news in real time, economic uncertainty, social comparison at the tap of a screen, the pressure to be productive, reachable, and optimized always. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Uncertainty is one of the most potent anxiety triggers there is. A 2016 study published in Nature Neuroscience found that people were actually more stressed when there was a 50% chance of getting a mild electric shock than when there was a 100% chance. Because certainty, even bad certainty, lets your brain prepare. Uncertainty keeps the alarm running. Your nervous system was not built for this level of ambient unpredictability. And that's not a personal failure. That's just a mismatch between ancient hardware and modern software. Part 4, the surprising science of calming down. Okay, so what do we actually do with all of this? Because knowing why your brain does something is interesting, but you probably also want to know how to stop it. And the good news is, neuroscience has some genuinely helpful answers. In this section, I'm going to give you 3 simple techniques which will help calm your body and your mind down. Action number 1 is breathe like this. Now, there's a breathing pattern called physiological sighing, and it's one of the fastest ways to calm your nervous system. It was recently studied by researchers at Stanford, and here's how it works. Take a normal inhale through your nose. Then at the top, take one more short sniff to fully inflate your lungs. Then a long, slow exhale through your mouth. Now that double inhale pops open collapsed air sacs in your lungs, and the extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest mode. Try it right now. Take a normal inhale through your nose, and then at the top, take one more short inhale to fully inflate your lungs, and then a long, slow exhale through your mouth. And just see where you've landed. See how relaxed your system is. And number 2, name it to tame it. Psychologist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA found that simply labeling an emotion, saying something like, I feel anxious, or I feel excited, or even just thinking it clearly, it reduces this brain activity. Putting words to feelings recruits the prefrontal cortex back online. You're not suppressing the feeling, you're witnessing it. And that small shift from being the anxiety to observing the anxiety is hugely powerful. Here is action number 3. Move your body. Now this one sounds almost too simple, but physical movement, especially rhythmic movement like walking, literally metabolizes the stress hormones your brain just dumped into your bloodstream. Your body prepared to run from a lion, so give it a run. Go for a walk, or complete 10 jumping jacks in your kitchen. You will feel genuinely different on the other side. Part 5 is reframing the anxious brain. Here's the thing I want you to take away from this video. Your anxious brain is not your enemy. It's an incredibly sensitive instrument that cares deeply about your safety, your relationships, your future. It's working overtime for you, even when it feels like it's working against you. Now, the goal isn't to eliminate anxiety, it's to build a different relationship with it, to get curious instead of panicked, to say, hey, I notice my alarm going off. What does it actually need right now? Sometimes it needs information, sometimes it needs movement, sometimes it just needs you to take a breath and remind it, we're okay, there is no lion. Now, neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to literally rewire itself based on repeated experiences and practice. Every time you respond to anxiety with curiosity instead of dread, you're building a new neural pathway. You're teaching your brain a new pattern. It does take time, it takes practice, but it is absolutely possible, and there is so much research backing it up. So, back to that question I asked you at the start. Why am I like this? And here's your answer. You're like this because your brain is ancient, and it loves you, and it is trying its absolute hardest to keep you safe, even when safe just means being prepared. Even when that preparation happens at 2 a.m, when you really, really need to sleep. So tonight, if your brain starts doing the same thing, the loop, the spiral, the questions, then instead of saying, why am I like this? Just say, okay, what do you need right now? That's where it starts. Thanks for watching. If this has helped, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You probably know at least one person lying awake tonight asking that same question. And I'll see you in the next one.